Well, I hope you are able to see the Word file on the screen. Yes? Can you see the Word file on the screen, somebody?
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay. Okay, fine, fine. So, the history is reconstructed based on the sources. And there are different methods by which we can collect the data from the sources. Sources might be there. For example, ancient temples, ancient archaeological remains might be there, books might be there in the library, but those are sources. And from that, what you collect for your need, for your research, is known as your data, is known as your information. I hope everybody is from English medium. If there is anybody from Hindi medium, let me know. And what are the different methods that we use for the collection and selection of the data? We will be discussing about that. And as usual, this is going to be a short topic. The very important method and very common method that most of the researchers use for the collection and selection of data is taking notes. You read the book, you visit the archaeological remains, you visit the temple, and there you observe certain things and then you take down the notes. There are, while obviously if you are very disciplined, very organized, you will take down the notes in such a manner so that when you prepare your thesis, when you write your thesis, the things are easily accessible to us. And for that, you need to organize the data in such a manner. From maybe probably you have to make separate notebooks. For example, if your thesis is having 5 chapters, you may have to make five notebooks, or if you have to make 5 files so that you can write on the paper and just go on putting in the in the file. First chapter, second chapter, or you can have one file extra also. In the beginning, you might be confused whether this material should go into the first chapter or fifth chapter. In that case, you can have an extra file, write extra, and you can just go on putting the material. This is what I am talking about when you use pen and paper. Now we have lot of us use our digital notes. That is, you just type your material that you found, and in that case, it becomes relatively easier. In fact, you can have different folders given either you can give titles of the chapters, otherwise you can give chapter number 1 to 5 folders, or 6 folder, extra folder 1, and you can just go on writing your stuff. You can go on writing your notes, and later on you can reorganize them or rearrange them. It becomes easier. You can cut paste from one chapter to another chapter if you feel that this belongs to the earlier chapter, so on and so forth. While taking down the notes from the book, you must also remember that you have to write the name of the author, name of the book, publisher, year, and page number, because this is important data. These are the data which you need to mention in your thesis. We will be discussing about the footnote as well. And while talking about footnote, I will tell you how the footnotes are to be given. And then you need all this information. And after reading the book for your research, you don't have to reproduce the complete book many times. You have to just summarize the book. And writing a summary of the book is a skill. You have to express in the short word the gist of the book may be of 200 pages, and you have to just make it into the 2 pages. And for that, it's quite possible that you may have to read the book number of times. There was one book which came for review to me, and I read that book around 4 or 5 times till the time I could write. It is a huge book, around 300 to 350 pages, and I had to write the summary of that book only into 800 words, and I had to ensure that no important point is missing. I had to choose very precise words. So, it is a skill to summarize something, and that skill will come into practice. In fact, the research itself is a skill. Just if somebody tells me how to cook and just send me to the kitchen, I may not be able to cook. That cooking is a skill. Somebody explain me gear and steering and clutch and pedal, and just make me to sit in the car and give me car, probably I will be meeting with an accident, because driving is a skill. Similarly, research is also a skill, and summarizing the content is an important task that we have to perform while taking down the notes or while using the resources for our research. Then paraphrasing. What is the meaning of paraphrasing? Paraphrasing means what author has said in his book, you are not producing it exactly as it is. You are producing the meaning, but in your own words. That is called paraphrasing. And in the paraphrasing also, we shorten. Like if there is a huge paragraph or huge pages, explaining, let us say, the concept of dharma, you may have to paraphrase it into two lines, one line. So that is called paraphrasing. So taking down notes involves all these kind of skill: organization, data, separation, and then summarizing and paraphrasing. The next important method of data collection is survey. This is generally done when you are involved into the field work. You go to the temple, have your observations, write down your observation, and here also you need a very keen source of keen sense of observation. For example, if you are visiting a temple for your research, you need to take a note if the brick size are of different size. So from that you can try to understand if a particular portion of the temple is constructed in one particular period, and the it is being renovated, or some portion is constructed later on. That is the reason different size bricks are being used. All right, you need to clearly, very minutely observe the different idols. It's quite possible that the temple might be belonging to one team, one god earlier, and then later on it is being replaced. New idol had been installed. So you need all that skill when you go for survey. And before you go for survey, it's quite important that you need to have some theoretical knowledge of the subject. For example, if you are studying, let us say, the temple constructed during the Bhosla period in Nagpur. Now, until unless you have something at the back of your mind, that is the reason in the last class I told you about the need of referring to the secondary sources first before you begin your research. So, some theoretical knowledge, some theoretical conception should be there in your mind. What are the important temples of the Bhosla period in Nagpur city? And then only you can have a list, and then you can go to one after another. Otherwise, if you directly go to the temple, you may not know which temple is constructed of Bhosla period and which temple belong to the British period. And you may just start wandering around. Your research will never be a pinpointed, never be a focus research, which is a very important thing in research. uh, Similarly, there, why when you go for survey, and it's quite possible that temple, if you are studying that temple might be crowded place, you cannot just sit there for hours together and write down all your elaboration. So it is also a skill that while taking the notes during the field work, you may have to take the notes in short, but you need to elaborate it when you come back, and that is a skill, that is a discipline required. Maybe while taking down the notes, you may think about lot many things, but immediately after coming back to the house, if you don't recall it and don't write it in an elaborate manner, it is quite possible that after 8 days or 10 days or 6 months, you may not be able to recall all those things. So, you need skill as well as you need discipline to complete your research. And this data collection is an important part where these both things, skill and discipline, is required. Then next important method of data collection is questionnaire. You can ask question to the people, collect the information from them, and then you can complete your research. When you prepare the question, this is, I'm talking question in the written form. The question in the oral form, that becomes interview, that will come later on. When you prepare the questionnaire, question one after another long series of question, generally that is divided into the two part. The first part will generally have the information of the person who is responding, his age, his annual income, his gender, his qualification, and all that information is gathered in the first part. And second part is generally having the question to which the people will respond. Now, what is the use of this first part? When you analyze the data, you can try to understand that people belonging to the particular gender, are they responding in a particular manner. For example, if let us say if you are doing a research on some village, I'm just talking about social sciences, not particularly specifically to history. uh, it is quite possible that for the women in the village, the problem of drinking water might be more profound, more important than the irrigation facility in the agricultural land. And it is quite possible that for the men who are more closely engaged with the cultivation, the irrigation facility could be a more important problem for them. So you can, if you have this data, let us say 50 male and 50 female, they have responded. By the responses, you can analyze that for the woman, the drinking water is more important, and for the men, it is the irrigation facility which is more important. For the elderly people, if you have age-wise data, for the elderly people, it is quite possible that they may talk about having medical facility in the village. And for the younger people, it's quite possible that they may talk about education and employment opportunity. For the affluent people, they might be needing maybe a good road, and for the poor people, they might be needing something else, might be bus services. So, depending on the income, depending on the age group, depending on the gender, you can, if you have this data, you will be in a position to analyze the data in a better manner. About the questions, there are generally, broadly speaking, there are two types of question. One is open-minded question and one is close-ended question. Open-ended question and close-ended question. So in case of open-ended question, generally you ask the question and the person will have a liberty to elaborate his answer, and that answer can be either short or that answer can be quite long. For example, if you ask a question like, what are the problems of the villages? Then it is quite possible that some person might just write two, three words. They will say drinking water, school, medical facilities. But it's quite possible that some person might elaborate the answer and they will just start writing a complete essay. If you ask a question like, what is the, another example I am giving about open-ended question, what is the opinion of Dr. Ambedkar about women's liberation? Then it is an open-ended question. The person can go on writing a very long answer to it. Closed questions are usually questions for which you have a very crisp answer. So crisp answer means, for example, what is your name? It's simple, one word. What is your qualification? What is your annual income? So, are you being vaccinated? Corona. So, you have a very crisp answer, either yes or no. So these are the questions which are called close-ended question. Open-ended question will usually have a very long answer. While giving questionnaire for the collection and selection of the data, you must also remember that the respondent should be properly selected. For example, if you want to do the survey about the effect of the new education policy, and if you go to the village, probably you will not get the answers. You are not selecting the respondent properly. You may have to go to the colleges, university, and meet the young people who are studying or who are engaged in education. Then only you will understand how the new education policy has impacted the educational scenario. If you want to understand the problem of the irrigation, then you may have to go to the farmers. You cannot go to the professors then. Until unless, of course, he is an agriculture professor. So you have to select the respondent in a proper manner so that your work is completed. Next is, questions should not be ambiguous. Questions should be very clear. The person who reads your question, he should get a clear idea about what you want or what you are expecting from him. Then there are certain limitations of question here. It's quite possible that people might be unwilling to give answer to the questions. It's quite possible that some people may also lie. It's quite possible that some people may just forget certain things. For example, in case of history, let us say you are taking a bit current topic, like let us say somebody is working on Baba Amte. Then it is quite possible that person who has worked with Baba Amte had forgotten certain things. Things have taken place 50 years back, 55 years back. They have forgotten something. It's quite possible that some people may lie also. They wanted to project themselves as very close person of Baba Amte. Somebody may not have a kind of dislike for Baba Amte. So you have to take all these things into consideration when you collect your answers. Not necessary that everything that you got in the answers are to be believed and trusted. That needs to be scrutinized. Well, so this is all about questionnaire, and then this is about the written form, and the oral format of questionnaire is interview. So when what are the precautions that you need to take in the questionnaire? Similar kind of precautions you need to take in the interview method. You need to select the proper person who is related to your area of research. You need to have unambiguous question, very clear questions. Next thing is that you need to take the person into confidence. The person that you are interviewing, he should feel trusted. He should be able to trust you. Otherwise, he may not open up. Next is that you need to have a very suitable time. It's not that if somebody is going for his office at 10 o'clock in the morning and without taking his prior and permission, you just go and start asking a question. Probably he may get irritated, or he is a bit polite. He may just avoid you by saying a few words. You will not get the proper answer. Then if possible, you can record the interview, but before recording, the ethical practice is that you must take the permission of that person, that I am recording this interview for my future references. And if he agrees, then you can record it. Otherwise, you should not record it without taking his permission. Recording is always good because otherwise the person will say something and then later on he may deny that I have never said thing. Never to ask a very uncomfortable question. If the questions are very personal, if you're, let us say, if you're working on an issue, social sciences issue like HIV and AIDS, these are the very personal thing, and you need to be very cautious when you ask question, and never to ask question unless you make the person comfortable. Before you go for the interview, little bit of background research is important. For example, if somebody is writing history of Nagpur University and he goes and asks to Vice Chancellor, sir, in which year the Nagpur University was established, probably he will understand that this person has not at all done a homework, because those things are very easily available on the internet. If you are doing a work on, let us say, writing the history of Tata Industries, when Tata Industries came into existence, who was the first chairperson, which was the first industry. These are the things which are all commonly available on the internet. And if you go and if you take a time of Ratan Tata and go to him and start asking these kind of silly questions, he will get irritated. He will definitely conclude that this person has not at all done any homework. You can ask a question which are very important. I mean, which are having that validity. Yes, the answer for this question is not available in the common public domain, and we can get something extra. Like you can ask about future plan. Let us say. Um, Next thing is that the interview, like, questions are of two type: open-ended and close ended question. Similarly, in interview also there could be an open interview and there could be structured interview. Open interview is just like, you ask one question. Generally experts are asked one question. Tell me about uh, the the opinion of Dr. Ambedkar about higher education. So it is an open-ended question. The person, if he is an expert, he will have a lot many things to say, and he may just speak for half an hour or 1 hour. Structured interview is that you have a series of questions prepared, and usually in case of structured interview, the answers are shorter size. Like, you can ask a person, in which year you were born, where you were born. These are the structured interview. When did you go to abroad, and what degree you have earned from Oxford University. So these kind of questions are called structured question, which are used in the structured interview. Here again, proper selection of respondent, which we have already discussed. And this interview method is also having certain limitation. The information that you get from the interview will be generally related to the very recent event, and the person who is responding to your question could be biased, not necessarily he is giving you a factual information. And the next very latest thing that we use for the data collection, information collection for our research is an internet. One important thing that you must observe, you must follow while taking data from the internet is that you must mention the website from where you have taken the data or give the link, and also you must mention the date, because people are maintaining blog, people are maintaining their website, but the information is quite possible that I have put some information on my website today, I may take it out after 2 days, or I may change it, I may alter it. So if you are doing a research, you must mention that this information is assessed on 27th October 2021. All right. So that is a bit precaution. Internet, the sources need to be acknowledged when you take the information from the internet from where you have taken the information. And though these different methods, 4 or 5 methods we have discussed today, all these methods are having their own importance, their own shortcoming, their own advantages. But generally speaking, in the research, you have to use the combination of all these methods together. For example, the first method that is taking down of the notes is generally used in all kind of research. If you are engaging with the ancient texts like me, Mahabharata, for me, interview may not be a very pertinent, very important method of data collection. So here we end today's lecture. If you are having any doubt, you can ask me.